Good afternoon, my friends. Hello. I was a few minutes delayed as I couldn't get my microphone to work. And anyway, I'm glad to be sitting here every day, every weekday, facing the same direction, carrying on what sometimes is some continuity in conversation. Sometimes it's not. Always seeking an answer to the question, how are you doing? And you have to have that conversation and that part of it. And how am I doing? And so then how are we doing? Welcome to the Pastor's Chat. I often wonder, what's the sphere of the happenings that you use to create the answer to the question, how are you doing? You draw that from your extended family sphere? You draw that from a work sphere? Or from just your own personal life sphere? From the church community? For some people, church community is their community, fractured as it may be. Where do you go to look? What monitors do you look at to see how you're doing? Is it your health? Health has a lot to do with it. The answer to how am I doing today sometimes has nothing to do with anything I have any real control over. Chemical balance in my brain caused by things unseen in me. I can feel good or feel bad. But, here comes my yawn. Net of it all is we do and can answer the question, how are we doing? Yesterday, I got a lot of responses to what I thought was a kind of, it's just let's look at Epiphany in this way. There are the discoveries that we make out there. There's the discoveries that we might make in terms of our faith and the understanding of the history of our faith and our own personal faith. All kinds of epiphanies to be made in understanding of the world and of life. And then yesterday, I set out what I thought would be this week's theme, the last full week of Epiphany, and that is discoveries that we make about ourselves. And I proposed something that has always been, well, not always, but going way back in my life was that you cannot know yourself by yourself. You cannot. So you do need the trusted feedback of other people to hold up a mirror to you, if it will, to say to you, well, this is what I see. Not this is the truth, this is what I see. And a few trusted friends who you choose to do that helps you to know the rest of the information about who you might be, about how you are. There's a theory of psychology which has, if I had a diagram here I could show you, but it shows that you have a perception of yourself which is like what you see in the front. And then 3/4 of who you are unseen to you. Like there would be, you have a field of vision, but you don't see, a little bit in the periphery, but mostly you don't see any of the rest of this. And for that, to know the whole of yourself, you need people who are standing over here to look at you, or standing back there to look at you. And then, of course, you have to filter out what may be their own biases and their inability to even see you as you are. So I introduced that yesterday, talked a little bit about it, and then several of you who watch from time to time responded and said, wow, yes, that fits with things that I've thought. Some said, I never thought of that before. Wow, I want to think a little more about that. And so it brought back to my mind when I was a much younger man. I had a friend who was also, I worked for him, and we spent a lot of time together. We worked on a farm, and we built animal pens and worked hard, especially in the summertime. Oh my goodness, we worked side by side with each other, and in pretty muddy and grubby situations. We were building pig pens, and if you don't know, like, pig pen from Lioness, and it's the dirty place, right? So it was grueling work, hard work and dirty work. And so, we were neither one of us all that personally conversant. We were men, didn't talk much about how we felt, and just worked, told jokes, ate lunch, worked some more, went home. But there was a situation that took place, I don't know, between ourselves and another worker, and we got to delving into all kinds of things about, did I do that? Did I cause that? Who am I? What am I? Where am I? And, we knew each other well enough, but here's what I'm leading up to. He made a proposal one day, which I completely rejected, and I'm glad I did. And he said, listen, I'm gonna make a deal with you. He said, I want you to tell me all the bad things about me. I want you to tell me everything that's bad about me, everything that is broken, everything you see that is broken, that is bad about me. And I want you to do it fearlessly. And then I'm going to tell you everything that is broken about you. What do you say? I said, no, absolutely not. No, and I would say no today. If you decided you wanted to do that today, I would say no. Even though I'm talking about the need for input from others for you to grow and to get to see epiphanies about yourself, to understand yourself, it's damning to realize that what you thought about yourself isn't how other people see you. But to turn over to one person who I'm not even really sure why he asked that question, I got the feeling that he was itching to tell me some things about me that he thought I needed to know. And what he didn't understand is I didn't see him as the person I would trust anyway. So all I would know after he finished with his out towards me was I would know what he thought of me. And at the time, I wasn't really willing to give him that place in my life. And further, the notion that I was going to come up a list of all the bad things about him, I mean, if it was the last day we were ever going to see each other, then maybe. I don't think there would be much hope for a relationship between the two of us ever if such an exercise were to take place. I don't know. I don't think the knowing of the self is a contest of disclosure of everything you've thought about the other person. Thank you very much. I pass. And I think you should pass. But there are, for our moments of growth, there are powerful, trustworthy moments where you can ask someone else who is careful to screen out their own prejudices and biases and whatever, and their own mismotivations toward you. You don't want to ever ask a person who's jealous of you or who harbors resentment against you to be providing this kind of information. I think it's one reason that psychotherapy is so popular in our world of isolation and loneliness. We are a lonely culture. We do not have, by and large, friends that we can exchange that kind of give and take so that we can grow in our lives. But a therapist can do that, a good one. They're trained. A therapist does exactly that. A therapist doesn't know you from anybody when you walk in, and the only thing the therapist knows about you is what you tell them. And they don't even know if it's true. All they know is what you offer. But a good therapist knows how to listen to you tell your story of pain or heartbreak or joy or whatever, and can begin to assemble a kind of profile of who you are and how you are and how you cope in the world. And people who find good therapists go back because it's such a wonderful thing. When it's delivered well, it provides a discovery. The word therapy means healing. And so in this inventory of how you feel, there is an opportunity for you to find your way to healing some wounds that you may be carrying around. And a good therapy session is an epiphany. It's an aha. I didn't know that. I've told you before on these chats that part of my experience and background is years and years and years of a kind of a therapy group. It was clergy culture together. There were, at one point, I think there were 9 of us. We met together on Thursdays for 2 hours. And it was structured to be it was like a group therapy. There was a paid mediator therapist who ran the group. But the purpose was that every week somebody was on the hot seat. It was kind of a Gestalt model. And that one person's life was on view to 8 other clergy. First, for a presentation, we would make topic of our choice, story of our choice, really answering the question, how you doing this week? And then when that was over, then the others had a chance to comment on what they heard and what they saw. And if you were the person presenting, you were quiet, you just listened. And then for the third of the time, there was discussion, there was give and take, there was, I don't think you see me or hear me, and I don't think you're hearing us about what we're saying to you. And it was, excuse me. It could be very intimidating. Most times, as intimidating as it was to go in, when you're on the hot seat, you got a lot of information, and you had to figure out what to do with it. There was a saying in the 12-step groups, which we used all the time, and that was, if it's helpful, take it with you, and if it's not helpful, leave it here. Or that thing from What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas. Well, what happens in a group session like that stays in the group session only if it's not helpful. But if it's helpful, take it with you. Carry it around, use it, put it in your bag, put it in the quiver as an arrow to guide you in your life. Lots of epiphanies. Some of them I wanted to forget, but mostly not earth-shattering. And interestingly enough, most of our inventories on our own, psychologists will tell you that when you do these kinds of inventories on your own, they're very negative. They tend to be very, very negative. Which is why it's probably not a good idea to do something like that, to attempt something like that by yourself, and then think that what you know about you is really the true truth. It's just not. And it's certainly not sufficient to give us an idea of how God sees us. Because see, then you've introduced another whole element of who are you? And even how are you? The God's eye view of you, it's interesting to wonder, most people's sense of God is very much like maybe a very condemning, judgmental parent who never felt you measured up. Oof. Well, it's hard to get out from under the parent model and to really get to the higher power image of of God. A lot of people, when they do inventories of any kind or feedback of any kind, if it's not negative, it's not genuine. When you get complimented, it's just puff and fluff. We just try to blow smoke up your skirt. But in the process of genuine epiphany seeking about ourselves, I think there is some that can come through practice of prayer. Prayer and meditation, especially guided imagery meditations. People who take you, you're quiet and your eyes are closed, they take you on a journey intentionally, and it frees us from our self-condemnation. I was I think it was at University of Connecticut. I took my daughter there years ago to see if she wanted to go to school there, and I remember, and I want to never forget, that at the University of Connecticut was the first place I'd ever seen that they didn't put signposts and billboards up on kiosks. They plastered the announcements about the art show or the concert or the football game right on the pavement, right down on the sidewalk. And at one point, I mean, I'd never seen that before. You're walking along and all these community interest announcements are right there on the ground. And I asked about it, and the guide said that they had done a study for students, and they realized that students predominantly walk around with their heads down. They look down. They are downward looking, not dogs, downward looking people. And that we are predominantly downward looking people. And so they put the posters and the bulletins down where the people might be looking, and found that the information was dispersed with a great increase of effectiveness. Now, what that meant to me was, oh my goodness, no. What lifts our eyes up? What helps us to see more on the level? To see our lives and to see our lives going by at some sort of an objective, if you will, level that helps us to see that we don't have to be looking down. So, the epiphany of the self is theologically is also an epiphany of the Christ in me. Buddha talked about the Buddha in me sees the Buddha in you. I think my own sense is that there is a sense in which I look for the Christ in you, for Jesus in you, and then you look for the Jesus in me to see that in me when we're working on this together. But also, there's an instruction for how you can see the Jesus in you. How to see you through God's eyes. And not just think that it's a figment of your imagination of like imagining a positive oriented parent that never really exists. Wow. Some days I feel like I'm just buzzing the philosophy words by you, and some days I'm just buzzing all the religious God words by you. But today, I think you'll agree, it's been a tour of psychology and human motivation and human understanding. And maybe somewhere in there is the answer to the question of how are you doing today? And I hope, above everything else, that in increasing ways, you'll be able to say, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I'm going to make it through, and I'm doing okay. I hope that whatever the journey is that you're on leads you to that, because then that means that you're on the journey following God's guidance. Because God has good hopes for you and good hopes for me, and a goal of love and compassion and ministry in our lives, to live our lives to the fullest, no matter where we're starting from. Bless you, my friends. That's all for today. It's Tuesday. I'll talk to you tomorrow. It's another snowy day, and I think it's not going to be tomorrow, but then the next day and the next day. So you'll just be trapped at your homes, and that means you'll have no excuse not to just turn into the pastor's chat. Okay? God bless you. I'll talk to you tomorrow.